Hey, thanks for coming back to the channel. The QSC TouchMix has been one of my favorite small mixers to come along in the last few years. It's also been the subject of two of my previous videos, a first look and overview, and a longer, more in-depth review video, which you can find in my tech review playlist or by checking the link above. Being almost a year since my last video on the TouchMix and having had a chance to use it on all sorts of gigs, both locally and traveling with it in the past year, I thought it was time to do an update video and look at how it's worked for me and what's changed with the software updates in such a short period of time. To be clear, I don't own a TouchMix personally, nor am I affiliated with QSC in any way. I simply work for a number of companies who do own multiple TouchMixes, and I find myself operating them quite often. This is not a paid ad, and the opinions I'm sharing here are just that, my opinions, based on my own experiences. That being said, I'll start out by saying that I really do like this mixer. It's not perfect, and there's always going to be those people that'll dismiss a touchscreen or tablet-based mixer right off the bat, but for what it is, it does a remarkable job. I'll start off with my only serious gripe in the form of a request for QSC to please rethink the power connector and move towards a locking solution. While it is an off-the-shelf part, it's not something you're likely to find locally in a store in an emergency, and with repeated use, they do get loose and can cause the unit to power cycle if it's not secured in place with a bit of gaff tape. A locking connector would be a vast improvement in my opinion over the current choice. So let's look at the software. With the recent layout changes, you'll find now that the iPad app and the firmware running on the TouchMix itself have been simplified, refined, and made much more similar to one another than before. I personally prefer to use an iPad mini 4, and I tend to end up mixing with the iPad in almost a video game controller grip. The layout of the app is such that if you hold the iPad with both hands, you'll have your mix selection under your left thumb from the main mix on through to the auxiliaries, while under your right thumb you'll have all of the controls that represent the hardware buttons and knobs on the physical mixer. With an iPad mini, I have no trouble getting to all the faders easily, and I'll usually only switch to holding the unit one-handed when I need to adjust multiple things at once. I also really like the way they've integrated more fine control over adjustments in this app. The ability to step in 1 decibel increments with the up and down arrows under your right thumb is very handy, as it works with all the parameters you might need to adjust. For even more control, you can hit the fine selection to get down to 1/10 of a decibel for exact movements. You can also hit the 0 button on almost any parameter and it'll zero that parameter out. Another feature I find myself using quite often is the built-in RTA. This is a very handy tool on a mixer that's small enough to fit in your backpack. You can see here that with the correct setting of permissions, you can allow or restrict the control devices from taking control of the RTA. This does mean that you can't use the RTA on multiple devices at the same time, but I haven't found that to be an issue, but I thought it was worth mentioning. This is also the case with the new tuning wizard and feedback suppression. Those are a one device at a time can access them features. The RTA is accurate, and you can assign it as needed to both inputs and outputs. I honestly don't use the recording features on this mixer at all. I've been burned enough in the past by onboard recorders in even industry standard, very expensive consoles that I always record externally and often redundantly when I'm required to make a recording. Honestly, I just haven't had to do much recording on gigs with this unit. If you're interested in recording, I'll link below a video from QSC on how they suggest that you set things up, along with a link to the approved hard drive list they have on their website. It's not a terribly long list, but the good news is that any of the issues that may have arisen from non-approved drives in the past seem to be avoidable by simply using an SSD, which are now more reasonable in price even than they were a year ago. At the time of this video, the most current app version is 3.0.20, and the current firmware download is 3.0.08620. So just as a reference point there, that's the firmware and software that I'm running on iOS, the newest version of iOS 11 point whatever, I don't remember anymore. But it's January of 2018. That's all for now. Just a quick update on the QSC TouchMix and how it's worked for me over the past year. The videos from this mixer have been so popular that I figured it was worth just giving a quick update. I've used it in the past year for everything from tiny cocktail hour parties to corporate breakout rooms, press conferences, political rallies, a couple of private studio movie screenings, as well as traveling with one internationally to a film festival. The TouchMix has done very well indeed for me this year. Thanks for watching, and thanks to everyone who supports the channel by following the affiliate links below and on the website, where you'll find lots more content, resources, tools, and discussion, all for free. See you next time.